Hey peeps, this is the missed class video for the week ending in November 8th-ish. If you missed class Monday, Tuesday, or if you're in my 5th period class, Friday, then you missed the virtual field trip from the folks from LOT and the Wet Science Center. And so I can't show you their whole field trip because they have a ton of videos that they showed and interactive stuff, but I don't have access to any of that because it's not my deal. It's from the folks at LOT and the Wet Science Center downtown. So I'll just go through the science note journal so that you can at least get that done. And unfortunately, there are just some pieces that you just missed and won't be able to see them, unfortunately, because they showed us how the whole water treatment process happens down at LOT. And it was interesting. Okay, so down the drain, and then what? You put your name here, your doc, obvi. And then you need to go on. So list 2 ways you've used water today. You can list your own ways. You don't need to use my ways that I did wash my hands, face, I drank water, I flushed the toilet. And then we did a Zoom poll. So you can just pick one of the things that you did today. You've obviously missed the Zoom poll. Just pick one thing and write your answer there. These were ideas from the breakout room. Basically, what's in wastewater besides water? I wrote down a ton of ideas because I was in like 8 different breakout rooms. But think about it. What's in wastewater aside from just water? When you flush, what's in that? When you are doing dishes, what goes down the drain? When you're in the shower, what goes down the drain? When there are storm drains outside your house, in the street, what kind of stuff can go down those drains? Some of those drains go directly to the ocean, which is a little sad, and some of those drains go to LOT, and they get treated, so they get cleaned, which is nice, especially if there's garbage and junk that goes down those storm drains. It's nice that they don't go directly into the ocean, even though that creates a ton of very expensive water treatment for LOT. It would be nice if people just didn't litter at all. All right. At LOT, they have kind of 3 major steps to treat the wastewater that comes in. First, they have to screen out all the trash. And trash includes flushable wipes. They do not break down on their way to LOT. Somebody actually has to scoop them out of the wastewater because they form these giant wipes clogs, wipes monsters. They have to be scooped out by hand. Imagine having that job. It's not pretty. So don't flush those flushable wipes. They don't break down. They have to be removed. They can also cause clogs. They say wipes clog pipes. Okay, so after they get out all the trash, bigger than your finger. And then it goes through a whole other process, this huge warehouse where they separate the floaters and the sinkers and the solids. And the solids are poop, but they're also fats, oils, and greases. They separate that stuff out, they scoop it out, and then they have the microbes do the rest of the work, the dirty work. So when they're talking about microbes, this is their picture, but this could include microscopic bacteria, protists. So there's all kinds of little microscopic creatures. It's a whole kingdom of creatures called protists, single-celled microscopic creatures. They would help break down that poop and oil. And basically they're the digesters. They're breaking all that stuff down. They're their little, they're the workhorses of the water treatment plant. There's little microscopic animals that help break down the waste in the wastewater. And let's see, the next slide talks about, this is what the water that comes into the plant looks like. Pretty yucky. Says to describe the color of it, it's called Influent. It's 99% water, interestingly enough. 1% other stuff. Looks like maybe dirt, poop, other bodily substances. So here are the 3 steps that we've kind of already gone over. Wipes, clog pipes. What was the other trash we saw in the video? We saw corn, we saw tampons, we saw paper. After step 2, the removal of solids. Fog, which is fats, oils, and greases, float. And poop sinks. So they remove the solids and then remove the microbes. After they have let the microbes eat all of the solids, now it's time to get the microbes out of the water. Because if you think about it, you'll have these huge pools of water and microbes. In fact, they showed us videos of it. It looks still brown and yucky, but it's all the microbes that are in there eating the poop and the oil and everything and breaking it all down. But you can't just send millions and trillions of microbes into the ocean. That wouldn't be good for the ecosystem either. So you have to take out the microbes. So that's one of the final steps. And a lot of the time the microbes will sink down and then they can be sort of scooped out and sent back to the previous step, and so that they can go back to work. But there's still a small number that would still be in the water. So they have these huge rooms of UV lights. And UV light is the same type of radiation that the sun makes. Except in these rooms, the UV light is so much more powerful. In fact, they said that people can't even be in that room for long. They have to wear full gear. And it's interesting because in the video, you don't even see any of the light bulbs. They're all in the floor. But even though you can't see them, there's enough radiation coming off of them that you could actually get harmed from being in that room for too long, even though you can't even see any of the bulbs. But these super high power UV light bulbs, they actually scramble the DNA of any little microorganisms that are still in the water. And at that point, those microorganisms cannot reproduce. So you can send the water to the Puget Sound, into the ocean, into the Salish Sea, and don't have to worry about those microbes messing with the ecosystem. So at that point, they send out the water. It actually looked beautifully clear, and some people even said drinkable. It's not drinkable. There still is a tiny percentage of microbes in there, and there could be chemicals in there too. Think about bleach, things that flush down the drain that the water treatment plant can't completely remove from the water because the chemicals are so small. So you don't want to drink that reclaimed water. They would need to do a couple steps more purification to make it safe and drinkable. But it's ready to be reintroduced into the Salish Sea ecosystem. The Puget Sound is just one little part of the Salish Sea. The Salish Sea is this big ecosystem. It goes all the way up to Canada. If you look at a map, it's very cool. And these are some of the critters that we saw in the video that were living in the right where Lot empties the water out. Right near there, we saw a ton of life. So it was really good evidence that the water was clean enough to be reintroduced back into the ecosystem. And we said, what's one thing living and what's non-living thing? And finally, this is the second to last slide that you need to do. You need to rearrange these organisms so that you can create an ecosystem flow chart, flow of energy. First, the energy for the ecosystem comes from the sun. And the sun provides the solar energy so that the plants and the phytoplankton can do photosynthesis. And those are called primary producers because they are the primary producers of energy for the whole food chain. That's where the production of energy and yummy food and nutrients starts. It's with those primary producers, the plants, because they're harnessing energy from the sun. So after we've got this energy stored in the plants, now that becomes food for the forager fish. All different types of forager fish live in the Puget Sound. They're tiny, they're small fish. They devour the phytoplankton and plants and seagrass and stuff like that. And then you have salmon. Salmon love to eat tasty little forager fish. And lots of animals like to eat salmon, including myself. But orcas are a predator that's at the top of the food chain that eats salmon. And so the presenters asked us to think about what happens when the forager fish are threatened. What happens to the rest of the food chain? What happens to the orcas? What happens to the salmon? So we can think about how one little piece of the ecosystem can affect all the other pieces. The salmon might die or be threatened or have a harder time finding food. The orcas might be threatened and have a harder time finding food and resources. And in fact, in the Puget Sound, this is a very real situation that is happening to the orcas, not being able to find enough food. The resident orcas are struggling and suffering, and we've had very, very few successful babies for orcas in the Puget Sound in recent years. And scientists are really worried about it because we love our resident orca populations, and it's not okay that they're not able to find enough food to have babies and support baby orcas to grow to adulthood. That's super sad. And so there's some real work that needs to be done here in the Puget Sound to help our resident orcas. The final question is, what can you do to help protect the ecosystem? And so you pick something that you are willing to do. And in fact, they said you could pick up to 3 things that you would be willing to do to help the ecosystem. All right, that's it for this notebook. Go ahead and submit it before Sunday, the 8th, and you will be good to go. Thanks for watching. Peace out.